Hi, and welcome to Prog Will Find a Way.
So today we're going to talk about some new releases. First being Porcupine Tree's live album and music video, and the other being Peter Gabriel's I.O. album.
Yes, and we'll talk a bit about Peter's career.
Yeah.
But yeah, who would have thought? It's been so many years. But,
right, it's been a million years.
Yeah, take
for
us
him.
through the Porcupine Tree.
Porcupine Tree.
Now, you showed me this before. We listened to a lot of it. It's very cool. Is this the standard bog version, or is this the deluxe version?
I did not get anything special for this particular
so this is
one,
the way
so
they went to market.
Yeah,
so that's
I think
very cool.
They might have a CD for all I know, but I just wanted to get the music and I wanted the video and the Atmos mix, which again, Steven Wilson is high on that horse or whatever you want to say. So this is a concert video filmed in Amsterdam, and it's the reunited Porcupine Tree after 12 years of not being on the road. They released an album, Closure Continuum, I believe is the name of it, and then went on tour, and they play basically that whole album interspersed interspersed with a bunch of older material, and it's really, really good. They don't have the same band as before. It's still Richard Barbieri and Gavin Harrison and Steven Wilson, but this time they're supplemented by Nate Navarro on bass and Randy McStein on guitar and vocals. It's a great concert, and it's a really good cross-section of all their stuff. Obviously, they've got a lot of the new album is on here, but they play stuff from everything from In Absentia, not everything, but 5 songs from In Absentia, 4 from Fear of a Blank Planet, only 1 from Dead Wing, 1 from Light Bulb Sun, 1 from Recordings, 1 from Stupid Dream, and 1 from The Incident. So
nothing from The Sky Moves Sideways?
No, or Signify, which is one of my favorites of theirs. But
can't have everything.
You can't have everything, but it's a really good cross-section, and I think they did a nice job kind of representing Porcupine Tree after a 12-year absence. I think that their current thinking is, if it happens, it happens, as far as moving ahead, which is great. I mean, they're kind of, they're not making anybody promises. They had been working on the music for the new album, I think, on and off over a number of years, and they finally thought that it was time to do it. Obviously, Gavin Harrison is very busy doing a ton of things.
Pineapple Thief.
Yeah, he was doing Crimson for a while. So I mean, there's
that band.
a lot of stuff on everybody's plate, and Steven Wilson obviously has a prolific solo career. They've all said, if we make new music, we'll tour again. Right. But I don't think they're going to go out as a nostalgia act.
Nice.
But it's funny, he does say in the show it's a very large venue. It's the Ziggo Dome Arena, and
where?
It's in Amsterdam.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry.
There's a ton of people there. And he said, one of the first things he says is, he goes, last time we played was 12 years ago, and apparently our audience has gotten a lot bigger because the place is filled. And he goes, maybe we'll stay away for another 12 years and see where we're playing next time. But, they're the myth of Porcupine Tree over the past 12 years has grown, I guess, substantially. And so Steven Wilson has become much more in the public eye since The Incident, which was their last studio album. So, the growing audience gives them thought, I would think, to keep going with it.
It's a little more of an incentive, I think.
I would think, but you never know. But true to their ideals, I should say, they're not going to just go out and do it for the money at this point. Who knows what the future will bring, because they're all busy doing their own thing.
Right. And I guess we were remiss because Porcupine Tree got their start in the late 80s and we never mentioned them in the,
right. Well,
in the 80s episode.
I think we were holding off on those bands that started in the late 80s and became 90s
hit
bands.
Their stride.
Right.
Hit their stride. Speaking of the 90s and what you said before about, you can't always get what you want. It's a kind of a Prog joke, but because we used to say this in the 90s, you can't always get what you want, but if you go see Emerson, Lake and Palmer, you can be damn sure you're going to get a 20-minute Rondo America encore. They won't play the full Tarkus, but they'll keep doing that.
You'll get a good chunk.
You'll get a good that.
All right, so Peter Gabriel's
Gabriel,
album, which he released song by song with the moon cycle or something like that.
How many years in between albums? Because that was almost a meme. It was before memes were memes. It was
I don't know exactly, but it was like
this is the year Peter Gabriel. It's like
22 years or something.
It's like this is the year Peter Gabriel's going to release a new album. It's the same thing people say about Jimmy Page. When is Jimmy Page going to do something? Like, what are you waiting for?
Well, if you don't have anything to say, you shouldn't just put an album out, particularly if you're comfortable with your life.
If you're comfortably numb.
But if you have something to say, I think then you do it. But otherwise, if you're just a contract musician that you have 3 more albums that
your jukebox
that the record company you owe, you just do them. But I don't know that he felt that way, right?
He certainly is no puppet.
So what's your thoughts?
I think it's fine. I mean, it's. Are we too? I mean, I don't want to say it. Like, am I too old to be blown away by some other old man's album? Is that a good way to say it?
Right.
Like, I think it's like his life experiences and whatnot are not make it so this is the kind of album he's going to do. He's not going to make another 3 or 2 or whatever. So on its own merits, I like it, and of course any opportunity, because it's not just the songs, it's the whole production, the soundscape,
right?
Come on, I love Tony Levin, anything that's got Tony Levin on, and he always has good people, and so there's that, but it's not something that I would probably choose to listen to much in the future. I don't foresee myself saying, "Oh, I feel like hearing that again." You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been listening to it a lot over the past couple of weeks, right? And I really like it, but there's nothing to me on it that is brand new, sparkling new. That 22 years, here's my new statement of where I am today, because it's feels to me like that's where you were before.
It also feels like a whole, like
I like it better than his last studio album.
Well, I think it was. I understand why he did it, because we talked about this in a previous episode. Releasing each song early, because it is kind of
elongated the entire process.
Yeah, where the whole thing is a thing. You know what I mean? It's there's differences there, but it's got a sound to it. It's not like a lot of variety in the sound to the songs.
Right. And speaking of that, there's this whole mix concept on this album where you have the bright side mix and the dark side mix, where he gave the songs to 2 different producers and they came back with 2 different mixes. In theory, very interesting. In practice, I'm hard-pressed to tell the difference between the 2 songs, and I'm not a big A-B guy that I'm going to go listen to that song and then I'm going to listen to the different version.
I agree.
But as I listen through, I'm like, which mix is this? Am I on the dark side or the bright side? Because the material remains the same, and I think that the strength of the material unto itself gives you these songs, right? So I think that both producers picked the best spots, and they both ended up with stuff that was very similar. I mean, I'm sure some people forensically will tell me that, oh, well, the bass sound is so different on this one, or it feels a little bit more atmospheric on this song. Just me listening, it doesn't grab me. It's not like you two different people remixed these albums and changed any of the songs at all.
Whichever
it's
one.
a mix of the same song versus a remixing of the songs.
Yeah, so whichever one you're hearing at the time. Similar feelings in what we were talking about with the S album box, with all the different mixes. Sometimes I didn't know which one I was listening to. To be completely honest, I would have preferred a third mix. Like, what's your mix? Like, give me the produced finished product. Why make me
there is
listen
an
to
Atmos
two?
mix on the if you buy that, but I have not
save
listened to that.
those for the deluxe box set in 20 years. I mean, because that's usually what people do, right? A lot of times they re-release something. It's like, oh, here was the alternate mix or the original mix or something. I felt like I understand the concept and it's cool, but
I wanted more.
I want your artistic statement. Like, don't make me sit here and choose. Like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, I want to get into what you meant. And so all this tells me is that
maybe the Atmos mix is the final
it must
statement.
be. Well, it could also be I'm confused because of I don't buy I'm not buying physical media anymore. I'm relying on streaming.
Well, did you find a lot of difference between the dark side and the bright side?
No, but what I'm saying is that I don't want to A/B it. This is
right. Understood, but I don't even think that I need to A/B it because they sound the same.
They do, but it's like I want to A/B something once I know something, not like here's it's like if you get when you go to happy hour and you can get wings, you can only choose one type of wing. You can't get a little of this and a little of that. It's like you can get barbecue wings or buffalo wings or teriyaki wings. You can't get one teriyaki, one this, one that. And I feel like let me get used to one flavor of the wings, and you're just like dumping it all on me.
Wow.
Are
you hungry?
That was the only metaphor that came in my head.
So then musically,
it's
very good. The thing that I found is Peter Gabriel has influenced so many people, right?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've listened to a Peter Gabriel album that I'm like, that kind of sounds like somebody else. I.O. to me sounds like Coldplay.
Okay.
Right? Just the way the music moves and it's got a Coldplay feel to me.
I would think that's probably it's Gabriel through a more contemporary lens, and that I think is part of the influence of the other creatives around him and what he's. I mean, it's not like he hasn't done anything over the ensuing years, but I think that's just where his head's at. I always, what comes in my brain is like, I mean, this is a weird thought. It's like in America they do this, maybe they do it overseas in Europe too. I don't know, but in America it was like it was like a tour. It was like Donald Fagen, Michael McDonald, and who's another one of those cats? Boss Skaggs. Like that was a tour. It's like Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, the Rat Pack. So it's like. I listened to this and I heard him, and that was what I'm like, they need a Rat Pack tour, like him, Kate Bush, and like Brian Ferry, because there has to be a slightly odd one out. So Brian Ferry will be like the Sammy Davis Jr. of the crew. But I always thought that would be because they're all playing in that same kind of atmospheric-y, talking about 80s prog, because a lot of that sound started with those bands we were talking about, the OMDs and those early synthy bands when they had crappy equipment and one keyboard, and so you held a couple of notes and you got these like swirling things. And sometimes I feel like what we're hearing today, the Coldplays, who I feel took a lot of that synth pop sensibility into their current time, and it has this this like, I guess that's what the 2020s sound like, you know what I mean?
But Coldplay has this kind of anthem sort of feel to some of their songs. And
totally.
That's what I was getting out of I.O., that song. That chorus that comes on. But even some of the way that he phrases stuff sounded like Chris Martin to me. And then there's another song, I think it's Love Can Heal, that reminded me of the current Marillion.
Okay.
Just the way he was phrasing stuff. I was playing it in the car and my wife was like, is this a new Marillion song? And I'm sure Steve Hogarth would be very happy that I made that comparison.
Compliment,
that's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, the phrasing sounds very much like that. But, you know, I'm sure Peter Gabriel isn't even thinking that. But I kind of was feeling, I'm feeling Peter sounding more like other people than like himself on this album in certain instances.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether that's conscious or not.
Right.
Who knows? I mean, but.
Well, it's not like he's going to do a Marillion take because they're the biggest band in the world. It's the Coldplay I can understand, but but it just was one of those things.
Well, and I think, you know, we kudos, I guess, to him that he still absorbs that stuff. It's like when we were talking about Rush absorbing at the time, you know, more of the policey kind of reggae things and doing their tune. It's like, and they never shied away from that. And they, you know, I think some of that is this. It's just he's out there, right? It's but
I don't even feel musically that he's changed that much on this album. I was hoping for a little bit more of a progression for him,
right?
Whereas this is it's a great collection of songs, and it sounds really good, and it sounds like Peter Gabriel. But it's nothing I haven't really heard before.
It's a lot of this stuff sounds like it sounds. It's like there's a time like but like, we talked about we didn't talk about the sound, but to me I hear a lot of this stuff and now it all reminds me of the
Prog or Sledgehammer.
No. Reminds me of Roger Waters and Dark Side of the Moon. Not the delivery, but the old man, you know, it's the vibe, it's the atmospheric kind of ambience of the sound. It's like this has nothing to do with Peter, but it's like they took Roger Waters out of the 80s and just plopped him in and said, you know, just read this, you know, and they had this whole thing going in the background. He had nothing to do with, you know, and it's just a modern sound.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's true with Roger. Don't you think Roger?
No, of course. He knows exactly what he's doing, but it's the same example. It's like he's working with the best people of the day who are the architects of the sounds of the 2010s and 20s. So that's why this stuff has it has that sound. You also want to be relevant, you know?
Yeah.
You want to be relevant. And a lot of it is, let's not discount the equipment and everything's going, you know, everything is digital. Well, look, we do this entire podcast. It's all, you know, we have a camera, it's film, but it's all done on an iPad. It's all recorded, it's all edited, it's all published. So there's a certain sameness depending on what kind of applications you're using and this and that. We don't want to go down that road. So,
but I did find some of the sounds, even though it might be 22 years later, to be very similar to some of his older stuff. I mean, just the groove and the bass and the drums.
There's enough there where you can.
It's very reminiscent.
Touch points back, which is cool.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But again, I would prefer that I didn't get. Not that I want him to do an orchestral album or something like that.
Which we already
did that.
We did that. Scratch my back.
Yeah.
And scratch your back. Right. Yeah.
Which I don't think they're counting.
No, that was something else.
They're not counting. Okay, that was something 22 years. Okay. But I think it's 22 years since his new material.
Right. Whatever the last album was, I don't remember. So what's your experience with Gabriel? Like, how did you come upon him? And did you ever see him solo?
I did not ever see him solo. That was one of those situations that I have plenty of his concert films, but I never saw him solo. Probably, you know, Games Without Frontier. Oh, well, Salisbury Hill, I had heard, but first albums I got was probably Security album, and then and then I went back and got the other ones.
Right. Yeah, I think Security was 3, right? No, 3 was Melt.
Yeah, so 3 was the fourth one.
Yeah, the fourth one. So I remember being with my parents in a Caldors. So if you're in the U.S. in the East, you'll know that. And I saw the cover, I was already into Genesis at the time, and I'd heard Peter Gabriel had been in it, and I'd heard Lamb, and I'd heard this, but I think I may have. Oh no, of course, I heard the second. I'd already heard the second album, and it was there, and because we never knew when stuff was coming out. It just you went to the store, and it was like, what is this? Oh my god! So I bought it. It was fucking amazing. What an amazing freaking album. Yeah. And then Security was great. But my favorite is still 2. I mean, the just because that was all that era that I loved and grew up in. That whole Fripp Exposure, that one, that big 3 trilogy, and the Daryl Hall album, which didn't come out till later. But I grew up outside in a suburb of New York. My parents got the New York Times. They talked about Fripp and this kind of Talking Heads, all that stuff. Yeah. That whole New York scene was covered hugely. So even though I couldn't be a part of it because I was like 14 or 15, I still knew what was going on. Got it. And so, and Gabriel was tangentially related, being contemporary. But Daryl Hall certainly was at that point. And Blondie, and I mean, you'd see pictures. They have pictures in the New York Times of Gilda Radner and Fripp and Debbie Harry and Daryl Hall. And it was like, what? What is this weirdness here? But anyways, back to Gabriel. I was lucky enough to see him a few times in those early days because he played in places around Connecticut. I have to hand it to him because his shows were always theatrical. Like his shows always needed to be in a theater. I saw him in places that were not theaters, and he would still try to do the whole thing. He would do it. Like we saw him. There was a club in West Hartford, Connecticut, the West Hartford Agora, and it was just. It was like a cafeteria, and there was a stage. And he came there during the Security, which I had seen, I think, at like the Beacon Theater, which was different. You were in seats.
And I saw Billy Idol there.
Okay. And they came in from the back doing Rhythm of the Heat with the drums. Yeah. And they all had the drums around, and they came down the aisle, and boom. So they attempted to do that at the Hartford Agora. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that show is it didn't start till midnight because David Bowie was playing at New Haven Coliseum, and they announced that Peter's at the Bowie show, so he won't be back till 11:30, and the show will go on at midnight. And they said, maybe David will come. Just trying to get sure.
Trying to get people to stick around.
At midnight, you start hearing drums in the back, and everybody's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Seriously?" It's a general admission, standing only. So they start beating the drums, and everybody kind of like slowly moves out of the way. It was the hilarious thing, and they jump up on stage and they do the show. He gave 110%, even at clubs. He'd be hanging off things, during Shock the Monkey. Those were amazing shows. I mean, you had Larry Fast on keyboards and Tony Levin, David Rhodes, who still plays guitar with him, and Tony still plays. And then I saw and I'm always cynical, jaded. I was like, oh, it's good, but
really? I love this album. It
lost the edge. No, I like the album, and I love the tour. I saw that tour too.
But that's when he.
But then he got popular.
He hit the big time.
There you go. He hit the big time, and it was great. I loved to see it, and I thought Sledgehammer in the video was amazing. Just so you could hear Tony Levin so loud on something on the radio, it was like, yeah.
But that MTV really helped him.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
it did. Yeah. That Sledgehammer video, it just became like it was whatever 1986. That was it.
And then he got on the train with so many other bands and slowed down their releases to drip. Yeah. Because what was the next one after that? I know it started with Digging in the Dirt. Red Rain was on it.
No, Red Rain's on but it's okay. What is it? It's the red album cover where he's kind of like, it looks like a ghost, and it's
how pathetic are we talking about Peter Gabriel? I can't remember.
We can't even remember the name of the album. I like that album.
Yeah, we're old. Okay, so
I'll go back. And then the one after that was Up, right?
Yes. We had some. Let's not forget the Birdie soundtrack. Yeah,
Birdie and
Birdie was amazing.
Christ, right?
Birdie was amazing only because a lot of it was bits from previous release songs. It was from the first 4 albums, but that was a pretty amazing. That was a pretty amazing album.
All right, here we go.
And he had live albums too. He did other soundtracks as well. Rabbit Proof Fence. Us. That's right. Yeah. The red one. Right. Yeah.
But then the Ovo project was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long Walk
One of
Home.
my favorites on that is that Elizabeth Fraser, Paul Buchanan song when they do Upside Down.
Okay.
And, yeah.
There you go. Okay. And then Up, obviously. And then another live album, right?
Yeah.
Growing Up Live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get to
Scratch My Back.
New Blood, yep. That's the orchestra. New Blood is the orchestral one, right?
Right.
Scratch My Back is other people playing his songs, and Scratch Your Back is him playing other people's songs. And then he did that tour with Sting.
Yeah, I don't
Which, and Sting sang the beginning of the Dancing Out with the Moonlight Night. The thing that Phil Collins used to sing at the beginning of Carpet Crawlers, the beginning of that song, Paper Late, that little intro. Sting did that. Yeah. So it's on YouTube. It's like, wow, Sting is singing Genesis.
So did you ever see him more recently?
No, the last tour I saw was because I started to not be as into the albums as much as I had been into the earlier ones.
Got it.
You know, I started same thing that I had with Rush. You know, I just started losing
you liked
interest.
It, but you didn't love it.
And I didn't go away from his work. I mean, I still felt like everything was valid. It just didn't speak to me in the same way. And then it became, you know, years between albums, you know? So it was like, yeah, I remember that was a cool album. It was like 3 years ago. And, you know, I might listen to one or two songs, but...
Yeah, because Up was 2002. So, yeah. So 20 years.
Yeah. But the newer stuff, you know, because it came out so infrequently and I had streaming, I could listen to the orchestral stuff, you know, then I could go listen to the Scratch My Back, Scratch Yours, listen to the new album. I haven't gone back to, I've listened to some of the stuff, some of the live albums because I was interested, but that middle period, you know, Up and Us, those I don't listen to that much.
But Us had some great songs on it.
Yeah, I'm not, you know, it's me, not Peter, man.
Yeah.
You know. No, it just is not.
We did go to see the Security Project.
That's correct. We did. If you're not aware, they've actually been around for a long time now. It was started by Jerry Murata, who played drums with Peter for that classic period, or what some folks would call that classic period. He's a little bitter about it now, but and then Trey Gunn. And that
was fantastic.
Yeah, they essentially do mostly the first 4 albums. Yeah. They venture a little outside of that. Their singer now is Happy Rhodes, who had a career before this. So we saw them. It's about a year ago or less than a year ago.
It was excellent
at a local. Oh, they were fantastic. So
because
if you ever get a chance to see them.
Peter wasn't touring a lot, right? And then I don't even know how much he touches on that period when he does tour.
A song here or there. I mean, I believe he plays like Salisbury Hill, and he'll pull like I know he likes
or something.
Yeah, but he loves to play like San Jacinto. There's like some songs that he loves to play, you know, like not. I know he would do, you know, like Not a Normal Life, like not. You'd be like, oh, if you're going to play one song, you know, no, you're not going to play that. He's going to play, you know, Not a Normal Life, you know. So he's done a lot of that. But yeah, they focused a lot on that. It was very good.
Neat.
And then they're all just great musicians. So.
So it's kind of fun.
But yeah, I mean, you know,
that's the closest I've come to seeing Peter Gabriel.
Okay, well, you know, hopefully this experience, there won't be as much time between the next album. Again, you know, I think these kind of folks who are just, you know, he can always put something out and it's going to be good. Like I never doubt, even if he does another album, like, oh, you know, is it going to be good? Is it not? You know,
right.
Always we both are. I'm nitpicking too, saying I don't listen to those albums, but I mean, I still recognize that from a creative perspective, he has been extremely consistent. Like, not putting stuff out to the public doesn't mean that you're not creative and you're not being consistent,
right?
You know, and kudos to him actually for not just flooding a bunch of crap out there that we'd all forget anyways.
You could tell the Scratch My Back
Yes.
era was him like, I don't have anything new to say, so I'm going to cover songs that I like, and maybe people will cover my songs. So.
I mean, you know how difficult it is on streaming sites to navigate through people that have tons of releases? Seriously. And, you know, I don't want to pick on them, but we talked about IQ and we'll talk about them in the 90s, but somehow they must have a different label for every album, which is odd because they have their own label, but maybe it's just in the US. But every single album, almost, at least in the last 10 years, is a different entry. Like if you look up IQ, there's like 5 albums you won't see. And then you look it up again and there's like 5 different IQs. You press on one, it's got 1 album there.
Yeah.
You know,
that is troublesome.
So, and as someone who sells through these sites, I know that like you just have to do the metadata right, and it works itself out. It's not like it's not an Apple mistake, you know. Anyways, any final words on Peter?
No, I would like to see him live someday, but I just haven't had the opportunity. I think he was touring this over the summer.
He was touring it, and but I think it's over.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well,
last thing, shout out to Nod Hill Brewery. I'm having Sound Chaser.
And I'm having a Cosmic Clock, a Hoppy Golden Ale. This is a local brewery to us in Connecticut. Not only excellent beer, a very cool brewery. I've been there many times.
And, you know, when you name beers after Yes songs, I mean,
come on. Yes. What are the other ones?
Well, they have one called Mood for a Day, which is another good one.
And I said, you know what? Shouldn't they have one called Ales of Delirium? On that note.
All right.
We'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time.
Bye.